Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has emerged publicly for the first time since the dramatic ceasefire agreement was declared between Iran and Israel, and his words have carried the weight of both defiance and determination. In a powerful statement, Khamenei declared what he described as a symbolic and strategic victory, not only over the Israeli military campaign but also over the involvement of the United States. Speaking before a crowd of loyal supporters and clerical officials, the supreme leader stated unequivocally that the Islamic Republic had succeeded in delivering what he called a hard slap to America's cheek. According to Khamenei, the United States entered the conflict directly because it feared the total collapse of the Israeli regime. Yet, he argued, despite the full weight of Washington's military and strategic backing, the intervention did not bring any meaningful gains. Instead, he insisted, Iran's steadfastness and refusal to submit had proved victorious. This bold rhetoric comes after a harrowing two-week exchange of military strikes that left the region on edge. Israeli and U.S. forces carried out a series of coordinated attacks on key nuclear and military infrastructure across Iran, including major sites in Bushehr, Natanz, Isfahan, and Khondab. Satellite imagery and reports from independent observers confirmed severe damage to critical centrifuge systems and enrichment facilities. These strikes, according to Western officials, were designed to disrupt Iran's nuclear ambitions and degrade its ability to threaten Israel's security. Yet, in the eyes of Khamenei and the Iranian leadership, the strikes only validated their claims of foreign aggression and further reinforced the regime's long-standing narrative of resistance. Khamenei's first remarks were also deeply rooted in historical context. He reminded the nation, and the world, of Iran's identity as a proud, ancient civilization that would never bow to coercion. Those who know the Iranian people and their history, he said, know that the Iranian nation isn't one that surrenders. His message, while clearly directed at foreign powers, was also a rallying cry to the domestic population. It reinforced a sense of unity and national dignity amid a period of crisis and vulnerability. His speech was broadcast on state television and circulated widely on social media platforms aligned with the regime, drawing praise from conservative factions and military commanders, particularly within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Meanwhile, the ceasefire itself was brokered under highly unusual diplomatic circumstances. Former U.S. President Donald Trump, now in a political comeback effort, played a key role in facilitating negotiations between intermediaries from Qatar and other Gulf states. Trump announced the ceasefire in a dramatic press conference, claiming that the deal had saved the Middle East from catastrophe. He warned that, had the conflict continued, the consequences would have been devastating not just for Iran and Israel but for the entire region. His statement, though broadly welcomed by U.S. allies in Europe, was met with skepticism by many analysts who questioned the sustainability of the ceasefire in the absence of real diplomatic engagement and guarantees. Despite the damage to Iranian infrastructure and the loss of military personnel, Iran's leadership has chosen to frame the ceasefire as a calculated outcome, one that they argue reflects their resilience rather than defeat. Khamenei and his advisors insist that their ability to absorb the blows from a coalition of enemies and still stand firm is proof of their ideological and strategic strength. In Tehran's official narrative, the war may have paused, but the resistance continues. This defiant posture has found resonance across segments of the population, especially among those who view Iran's foreign policy through the lens of resistance against imperialism and Western domination. International responses to Khamenei's remarks have been mixed. In Europe, leaders have cautiously welcomed the end of active hostilities but remain concerned about the rhetoric coming from Tehran. The European Union has called for renewed efforts to reopen nuclear diplomacy under the framework of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, commonly known as the Iran nuclear deal. But Iran's hard-line stance appears unchanged. Meanwhile, Gulf Arab states, while supportive of de-escalation, continue to view Iran's regional influence with deep suspicion. Israel, for its part, remains on high alert. Though its military campaign has paused, defense officials have made it clear that any renewed threats from Iranian proxies or missile launches would be met with force. Khamenei's comments are not merely reflective of a single episode in a long-standing rivalry. They highlight the enduring ideological and geopolitical rift that defines the relationship between Iran, Israel, and the United States. At the core of Khamenei's speech is a message to the Iranian people and the broader Islamic world. That the Islamic Republic will not be bullied, will not back down, and will continue to assert itself as a regional power regardless of the cost. This narrative may harden Iran's diplomatic isolation in the short term, but it also bolsters domestic legitimacy at a time when the regime faces internal economic pressures, international sanctions, and political dissent. In the coming weeks, the true impact of the ceasefire, and of Khamenei's words, will become clearer. Will Iran attempt to rebuild and retaliate? Will the international community push for a diplomatic breakthrough? Or will this fragile pause in violence give way to yet another round of conflict fueled by mistrust, ideology, and power struggles? For now, one thing is certain. Ayatollah Khamenei has reasserted his presence on the world stage, not with concessions or retreat, but with the kind of uncompromising rhetoric that has defined his rule for more than 3 decades. And whether seen as a call for unity or a provocation for future escalation, his words carry enormous weight in a region where every statement can tip the balance between war and peace.